Ryan here with LongRangeOnly.com. Today we're just going to talk about my pre-thoughts or my initial impressions on the Gunwerks Nexus. So it really won't be the initial impressions because we did get to shoot this last May in Cody just prior to the launch. But this is mine. It took a while to get it, but I finally got it about a month ago or so. And I've had some time to shoot it. This won't be the review. I won't do a review until I've got a lot more rounds down the barrel. So let's just dive in and talk about my initial impressions. Let's kind of talk about the specs. I'm not going to dive into them, but this is a 24-inch barrel. As of right now, they offer it in a 24 and a 20-inch barrel, and they currently offer it in 6.5, 7, and 300 PRC. This one is a 6.5 PRC 24-inch barrel. There will not be a lot of options, but there will probably be more cartridge options down the road. I think for the 24-inch barrel, they had the specs listed at 7 pounds 10 ounces. This is actually about 7 pounds and 3 ounces, or 7 pounds and 4 ounces on my scale. And I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but it's definitely not meant to be an ultralight. It's just meant to be right in that perfect shootability weight, and I think that's where it is as far as the guns that I've built through the years. Anywhere from about 7 pounds to 7.5 pounds for bear rifles, where I really think the sweet spot is for most hunting rifles. When you get into the bigger 338s, it may be a different deal, but it's got the Gunwerks recoil pad. They've been using this style for years. The back half of the stock is very similar to a Climber or a Magnus. It does have flush cups on both sides right here. It's got this leather pad right here on the cheek piece. I've seen a lot of mixed emotions in the post on the internet. I really do like it, and I think that, historically on lots of different things, leather has been very resistant to wear. I have no concern about this leather wearing out before the gun wears out. The attaching, I do have concerns for longevity. I know that Gunwerks will take care of it if there is a problem, and I don't feel like if it were to have a problem in the field that it would cause you to not be able to finish your hunt. Only time will tell about it. I do really like the feel of it, and I think that when you're shooting it in the middle of winter, I think you might actually appreciate it a little bit more. But it is what it is. I don't know that it adds a lot to the rifle that carbon fiber wouldn't give you. I don't know that if they had built this gun without the leather, you would have noticed. And I definitely don't think you would have been wanting, but I don't think that you're going to hate it once you get it. It is a nice touch. Hopefully it'll last longevity-wise. Definitely wouldn't keep me from buying the rifle, for sure. It does have a almost full arc rail, so it starts about right here and goes to right here. So it gives you the option to shoot off a tripod, which is becoming very popular these days. And there's some tripods out there that can allow you to shoot very long distances off of with some practice. I actually shot a group the other day at 500 yards. I know that's not super long, but it was, right at half minute at 500 yards. And, I think it's an excellent option, especially, 10 years ago, I don't think there's a lot of things out there that would have allowed you to take that shot. And like I said, a little bit of practice, I think you can get farther out. It's got the integral rail right in front of the Orca, so that's what we've got here. This is actually, this bipod adapter can actually go on either, but it's on the Picatinny rail. And then it's got their 2-port brake and a 24-inch carbon fiber barrel. It's using a Tech trigger. Originally, they were going to have the shoe adjustable back and forth. What I'm gathering is Tech didn't want to build it, so right now you're just getting a fixed Tech trigger. This is not a 700 clone, so that is the only option for triggers right now. It's the one thing I think I'm really a little bit disappointed in. The trigger only goes down to 1.5 pounds. I have been shooting it, and the fat trigger shoe makes it feel lighter, so it's not a huge issue, and it's not a deal breaker, 100% not a deal breaker. But on a rifle this nice, I just don't understand why you wouldn't put a trigger that goes from like 8 ounces to 3 pounds or whatever. It just, I don't think it's unnecessary. The rifle deserves better. But again, you're not going to be disappointed in it. Okay, they have one action length, and what is going to change when you get different cartridges is the magazine itself, the internal part here. Now, Aaron talked about one of the goals of this was getting a magazine that would hinder you less than a 700 platform. He really wanted a double stack that would fit more cartridges in it. And as far as that design goal is, it was met. So it's wider, and so it wouldn't fit a 700 footprint. This is another thing that I personally think is a shortcoming in a lot of ways, but it's not really the Gunwerks way, so I'll come back to it. This is a 6.5 PRC, so it can barely fit longer than a SAMI maximum. So if you were wanting to touch the lands with a 156 burger load, you're probably not going to do it. It's probably going to be a little bit short. When you're building a platform from the ground up, I don't really understand why you wouldn't have gone another 100 thousandths on the magazine. And you definitely have the room because the rifle itself or the action itself is made for long action cartridges. I don't have a 300 PRC, so I don't know, but just measuring here, you're not going to make it to 3850 on a 300 PRC, which if you're wanting to shoot 215 burgers out to the lands, you're going to be a little bit longer than SAMI. And off the top of my head, I don't really remember, but I personally would have made it a little bit longer. You're designing it from the ground up, I would have made it a little bit longer. But the magazine is absolutely beautiful. It functions flawlessly. Outside of like a Socko 85 or a Fierce, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would rival. This is the best feeding setup that I've ever experienced. Now that I've griped about the magazine internal length, I'm going to say that it is really meant to shoot Gunwerks ammo or factory ammo. And I don't have any Gunwerks ammo. I'm probably going to try to get some for the purposes of the review. But right now it's shooting factory 147 ELDMs, almost every group sub half minute at long distance, and I've had a lot of good luck with the 147s. The issue is with the Hornady ammo, from lot to lot you get pretty big variances in velocity, so you may have to retrigger your ballistics every time you change lots, but it's shooting extremely well. This gun also shoots factory 156 burgers extremely well, but they're extremely slow in this. Most other, I guess the other 24-inch barrel that I've shot it in was going around 2880 to 2890, and this is going in the 2820s with that burger factory ammo, which is really weird because the 147 ELDM lots that I've shot in this are going about 20 to 30 foot per second faster than the other barrel that's actually shooting the 156s faster. So this barrel is slower with the 156s and faster with the 147s. Same lots, two different barrels. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. And I don't want to get focused on that because it's not the point. But it does shoot both of my favorite factory ammo offerings extremely well. The action, it's an aluminum action. It has a side bolt release back here. And then it uses a barrel extension similar to like an AR-15. So the barrel is threaded into the extension and then clamped into the aluminum action. I see a lot of people getting or having concerns, expressing concerns on the internet about aluminum actions. I don't know why or where this concern came from. The Kelby Stoli Panda, or Stol Panda, has been around, I think, since the late 70s. It handles pressure extremely well, so it's an aluminum action with a steel insert in the front. No concern. The Bat Vampire is an aluminum action with a steel insert. I actually think you're probably going to start seeing a lot more of them. I believe the Seekins Havoc is an aluminum. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not as well versed with it, and I've never personally had one. But I can tell you it's a non-concern. I don't know where the concern came from, but it's a non-concern. The pressure container is in the insert, and the barrel threads into that. You're not going to have any problems with it. I love that Gunwerks is finally making an integral rail. I've had so many issues with Picatinny rails coming loose or tally rings coming loose that I don't like using them anymore. What I typically do on a non-integral rail action nowadays is just scuff up the action, scuff up the rail, and then JB weld them so they don't come loose. And I have still had them come loose with that on a couple heavy recoiling rifles. But I love that they got integral rail here. I do like the aesthetics of it. I don't think that's really that big a deal, but I do like it. The bolt is disassembled by hand. You don't need tools. So you can take the bolt handle out of it and you can swap bolt heads. And then it's a 3-position safety, and the safety actually disengages the firing pin. So there are no chances that it's going to fire accidentally like on a 700 where you're basically just blocking the sear. And there have been instances of accidental discharge on safety. I'm not advocating that you don't follow gun rules. You should still treat every gun as if it is loaded and it's going to fire if you bump the trigger, but this is definitely safer. It is also a full body diameter bolt. It's, I want to say it measures 825 and maybe 820, but it's quite a bit larger, about 100 thousandths larger than like a Bat at 720, and it's about 120 thousandths larger than a Remington 700. And the lugs are smaller diameter than the bolt, so the lugs go in to the barrel extension, and it's very similar to like a 6-lug Weatherby. It's basically a dual 3-lug, so each one of these has 2 different lugs there. Like I said, the bolt head can be replaced. So later down the road, when they go offer 6.5 Creedmoor, you'll be able to swap your bolt head, get a new barrel, use your change, and we'll come back to that in a minute, your barrel, and then you've got a 6.5 Creedmoor, and then a couple weeks later you can go back to your Magnum. Okay, it does use a Mini 16 style extractor. It's different because the whole design's different, but it's reminiscent of a cross between a Mini 16 and a Sacco. And then it's got dual plungers, and the ejection angle is very nice. It comes straight out of the action, which was another thing that I think Aaron was trying to work on. Some of the other actions out there, especially with Saccos and M16s that are setting up above the lug, tend to eject too high and they'll hit your scope. Now, the GLR action from Gunwerks doesn't have that problem, but it is very nice on this. Okay. I think we've talked about most of the stuff on the bolt. It's fluted like an interrupted type of fluting on the side that you can see. The bottom is smooth. And then because the lugs are smaller than the bolt body diameter, the thing that makes it ride backwards and forwards in the action is this little rail on the side riding on the side bolt release. So if you were to hold the side bolt release in, you can do whatever you want with the bolt. So once you let go of it, it snaps in there. It definitely feels different. So if you were to pick up this rifle and then go shoot it or cycle the action, it's definitely going to feel different from a 700, but it is incredibly smooth. And then when you close the bolt, it feels a little bit different because the lugs are different. It's not a 2-lug, and so then when you cock it, it is a shorter bolt throw, so it does have a little bit more than some of the best actions out there as far as lift, but it's not much, and it's very smooth. Like I said, it feels different, so it's really hard to compare 100% apples to apples with another 700 clone action, but it's very smooth. I think once you get used to it, you're really going to like it. And then that is another thing, because I guess they don't really go hand in hand, but the primary extraction cam is actually up front. It's here and in the barrel extension, as opposed to a 700 where it's back on the action and then the bolt handle hits that cam. So there are some advantages to that, and I don't intend to run this thing. I don't really intend to do any load development at all, so I don't intend to run it up to pressure. So I'm not going to be able to see or don't intend to find out how it handles pressure, but that is noteworthy. The extraction cam is up here. The 3-position safety, because it is engaging the firing pin, it is harder to engage, much harder to engage than a Remington 700. But it is, like I said, a lot safer. So the far back locks the bolt. You cannot open the bolt. If you go to the middle position, you can cycle the bolt. And like I said, it is holding the firing pin back, so the trigger sear is not going to touch it. You can see how it just falls. And then once you push it on fire, then you can see and feel that it is engaging the sear. Another noteworthy change, and it was one that Aaron was trying to fix, one of the bigger reasons why they didn't go with 700 clone, is the trigger does not push up on the cocking piece here. So it doesn't cause that tilt on 700s that everyone's trying to fight with things like board and bumps, where the top of the receiver or the bolt diameter actually gets tighter or bigger, so the clearances are tighter when it's in the cocked position to push that bolt back down. You don't have that problem with this design, which does help increase the inherent precision of the rifle. I think I've talked about most of the things I want to talk about. We talked about all the stock features. I did forget to mention that it does have a Picatinny rail, or a QD mount here for a QD sling right in the front. But we've talked about the stock. We talked about the barrel. I guess I did not mention that all Gunwerks barrels are now being made in-house. It's part of their vertical integration, so basically they're trying to get more control of their components. So the only thing they're really left to try to mess with is vendor supply of the things that they make the components with, like the metals and the carbons and that stuff. But we talked about the brake. Let's talk about, I think, the number one thing that sets this rifle apart from others, and it is not just the stock, but the stock design. It is super thin right here. And I don't think there's going to be a durability issue. Carbon with the right resins is very strong, and we've proven that over the years. It actually flexes a lot less than other materials out there. But it's very thin here, and it allows you to have a huge thumb shelf right here. And then on the front, for the average guy's hands, there's less distance from here to the trigger. So when you combine that, what you get is you just lay your thumb right here on it, and you put your hand in there, and it fits like a glove. Your trigger finger is exactly where it should be. You don't have to move around. You don't have to hunt. Your trigger finger is exactly where it needs to be, so that you can pull straight back towards the butt without introducing any side loading on the trigger. And there is no other stock out there. I've had my hands on every stock made for a long-range hunting rifle. I'm not talking about bench rest rifles. They're different and they're shot differently. But for a hunting rifle, there is no better stock grip here. If you have giant hands, you may not like it as much. You may want something like a vertical grip Macmillan that has that larger distance. But I just don't love those types of stocks. with the bigger gaps. Now, I do like vertical grip, and it is more vertical than the Climber. It's about the same as the Magnus, but it feels far superior to the Magnus, far superior to the Climber, and those are some of my favorite stocks before shooting this. And I knew this when I shot it last May, but the more I shoot it, the more I love it. I think this is the single thing that's going to set this rifle apart from others. And I think it can't be overstated how important this right here, this interface, is to the shootability of the rifle. I see a lot of people already saying they don't understand what's so special about this rifle. Well, until you shoot it, you're probably not going to be able to appreciate it. I can tell you about it all day long, but until you shoot it, you're not going to be able to appreciate it. It really is incredible what they've done here. And it seems a little bit ridiculous that it took so long to get here, because I think we all know that we don't want to have a lot of input to the rifle here by now. But I will say it takes a lot of research and development. And so at some point in that research and development, you're going to have to put a product out and shoot it and try it and see what you don't like and move on to the next best option, or there'll be some improvements through use. But this is amazing. It really makes you not want to shoot other rifles once you've had your hands on this stock. So let's go ahead and walk through again real quick. I know this was a long, and it's not even the review, but it really is an impressive rifle, and it's really hard to emphasize how big of a deal that is, because I've built custom rifles with every stock out there. I've used, up until a couple years ago, I've used every action available. Now they seem to be popping up everywhere, so I can't keep up with all of them. I've used every popular stock, and I've shot every popular cartridge. I've shot a lot of Wildcats. The PRCs are turning out to be some of the easiest to use. Just a well-designed cartridge. It's not perfect. We're not going to get into cartridges here, but we are really coming to a point where you can build a rifle where you can grab it out of the box and go shoot some ammo, and that ammo is going to be just as accurate, over 40, 50, 60 shots as something I would have built custom 15 years ago and developed loads for. By the time you keep those custom loads in tune and you're tweaking them, if you don't mess with that, we're getting to the point where factory ammo can do about the same. And then we've got rifles now out of the box that will allow us to do something that we would have had to build a custom rifle 4 years ago. Let's go ahead and walk through it again and then wrap it up, and then we'll come back for a review when I shoot it some more. The stock, basically the design back here is essentially the same as like a Climber or a Magnus. It has a little bit of differences. It's got the same really nice recoil pad. This leather is a nice touch. I don't think I would have missed it if it weren't here. But it is nice, and it'll add a nice patina once you wear it in and give the gun some character. The magazine design is very nice as far as the design goes. I really wish it would have been a little bit longer internal length, but like I said, for the use, intended use, using Gunwerks ammo or factory ammo, you're not going to have a problem, and I really don't think you're going to miss, unless you're just really anal like I am, you're not going to miss the length when you're trying to do load development, if you so choose. It's got an ARCA rail, which is, I think it's going to become more and more popular on hunting rifles. It's already starting to get there. There's all kinds of accessories, and there was accessories for the Magnus to put a rail here. It's got an integral Picatinny rail for most of your bipods up here. 20 or 24 inch barrel. This one's 24 inch, and then it's got their 2-port brake, which is very effective for a 2-port. It's not going to compete with like a Terminator or Rockslide TI Pro, but very nice. Side bolt release, which has become standard. We talked about all the internal changes to the action. It's not a 700 clone. I'm not going to rehash all of them. It does have Picatinny rail internal to the action receiver, which is something I almost demand these days. I really don't like actions without them. And then right here, I think, is where the money is. It is just insane how nice of a grip it has, and it is what makes this rifle so shootable. So I'll have a link to the thread that I started a year ago down below. You can go ask me any questions about the rifle, and I'll try to address those when the review comes. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on notifications so you can be informed of future video releases. If you're not a member on longrangeonly.com, it's quick, it's free, it's easy to sign up, and we'd love to have you. There's lots of great information on the site, and there's a lot of information from our forum members. They would love to have a conversation with you as well. So please go ahead and do that for us. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a great day.